The views expressed in the One Love podcast are not necessarily shared by the owners at Factory Street Studios. Viewer discretion is advised.
Amen.
Crack open the beer.
Okay, welcome again to the One Love podcast. First of all, I'd just like to let everyone know that Liam, aka Rufus, is not with us this week, as he's got a really bad migraine.
Get well soon, bro.
Yes, get well soon, mate.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll see you at the next one. Broadcasting again from the wonderful Factory Street Studios. We're in the control room of the recording studio upstairs. factorystreetstudios.co.uk. Is that right?
.co.uk, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And with us this time is a very, very good friend of mine, Matt Evans.
Hello.
And we've got Alex, as always, with us as well, pouring the beers.
Somebody's got a dirty job.
So what's
A rider.
So these are
This is Gambrinus, yeah. These are beers that I picked up on the border between the Czech Republic and Austria. Czech beer, very tasty.
I'm just looking for the volume.
This one's Desitka, which is 10%, but it's measured in a different way, so it's not actually 10%.
It's to be up, so isn't it?
4.3.
All right, nice one.
So this is the yeah.
Thank you.
It has a nose of Staropramen.
Yeah, it's very similar sort of
A little bit more
style
malty.
of beer. That's the
nice.
idea. This Czech. I actually brought back some Staropramen as well, but I thought these three were more interesting.
Yeah, makes
We've all
sense.
had Staropramen, haven't we?
Gambrinus, if you ever come across that one, very nice.
Gambrinus.
It's quite nice.
Nice and dry, just the way I like it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I collected that when I was getting the tape machine. That was the
Well, why not?
part of the mission. Was to
A tape
couple of
machine
crates of beer.
and the beers.
Yeah, quite.
Why wouldn't you? Okay then, well look, we'll probably get round to it in more detail, but I met Matt when we were both teaching at Intake Arts College.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right, and we've been playing together in the Paul Middleton's Angst Band for about something like that.
6 years for me.
Okay, good. Right, anyway, look, let's have a look at... we like to ask our guests to just give us a rundown of what's happened in their life, so we can... for me, I don't want to ask the same questions that I actually know the answer to, so it's nice to be able to work off your history a little bit. All right then, so let's have a see what we've got down here. 1971, that makes you 44.
I am 44
44
and a half.
and a bit. Piano first as a very young child, and then so I think we should start at moving to Gloucester.
Yes.
I'm assuming that you had all your high school years and such in Gloucester.
Yeah, very, very successful time at school with music and football, pool, and O levels and some A levels. It was a very nice time. I mean, basically, my sort of musical life started in Newcastle when I was learning the piano, because the coolest thing you could do in our neighbourhood was to have piano lessons, because the sort of lead guy in our gang, his mother was a piano teacher, so everybody had piano lessons, so it was like a no-brainer. And then when I moved down to Gloucester, things really began to take off with ensembles and band. Like by the time I was 14, I was in pop bands and orchestras and wind ensembles and all sorts of just the usual sort of school things, and trying things out after school with friends at school, and then finding people outside of schools who were also trying to do, just jamming and trying to create bands. I mean, it was in Gloucester in the 80s. There was put there as a very, very, very exciting music scene. You could see a gig every night of the month. It was, you could go out any night you wanted and see live music everywhere.
Going back to that, just very, very quickly. Interesting. It's only the second time I've heard that the leader of the gang was some kind of creative inspiration or a bit. And
it's the role model thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's you can see that it's a rare thing, but to have a group where the people that everyone looks up to isn't causing trouble or being the hardest kid, but actually going, come on everyone, let's
play
be
piano.
creative. Yeah, absolutely. And it shows you how how the crowds are moved, as it were. That all you need is one inspirational figure, and like I say, unfortunately, it's because they're the ones that can beat everybody up. But
I think it's that basic human instinct of aggression, isn't it? If you're the leader of the pack, and so
but it's also the basic human instinct as children to be like the strongest, like the alpha, and it's an interesting and nice thing to hear that in that situation it's worked out really well.
Yeah. Well, he was a good guy, and I think our parents, good friends' parents of my friends including my parents, were quite happy that in the 70s it was a lot freer in the 70s to go around and do things. You were allowed to sort of like fall and hurt yourself, and it were all right. And but I think that the parents were very happy that he was around, because he was about 4 years older than me, probably a year older than my brother. A bit more streetwise, a bit more aware. But yeah, he certainly looked after us. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a bit about the music scene.
Totally vibrant. I mean, I was going out when I was 14 or 15 years old, 4 nights a week. I don't know how I afforded to do that, but I did. And Thursdays and Sundays were very focused on band watching, and Friday, Saturday were a lot more about sort of socialising and whatever you get up to on a Friday, Saturday night. But as I say, it was everywhere. You had friends around me who were either keen to go and watch things, or they were keen to be part of the scene creating the thing. So there was, at a young age, I had an opinion of myself which was sort of correct, but at the same time it meant that I was above other people in my musical talent, but I was also looking at all sorts of other people who were already doing it, had all the proper gear, had all the skills about, frontmen were frontmen and keyboard players were keyboard players, and all the roles were clearly defined, so you had great examples of things going on.
It reminds me of Harrogate in that respect.
I came back to it in Harrogate.
It's always perplexed me, the Harrogate music scene, because I mean they had a few sort of reasonably famous bands in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I think with Wally that Roy Webber and Paul Middleton played in, and I think I can only assume that that's how it's kind of filtered down, that we've got famous bands in the town, and then their kids. I mean.
Holly?
Well, there's Holly and Adam.
Yeah.
And, forgive me. That was brother.
Whose brother?
Adam and Holly's brother.
Oh, I don't think I...
My apologies. But in the rock band Knievel that...
Oh, yeah.
And so you can see that their kids are obviously musical but driven, and let's not get it wrong, there's money there to help them achieve just go on and it's not a barrier to being a good musician. It's like, there's some instruments, nice one. It's the way it should be for everybody. But and then you can see this next generation underneath them of sort of 17 to sort of 25-year-olds that are all again loads of young bands, good musicians, and the whole way that Harrogate feeds into itself, I think sounds like the Gloucester scene.
It was exactly the same thing. Basically, I mean, Blues Bar does an incredible thing. It puts on live music 7 nights a week and 3 times on Sundays, and it's just, you can't fault that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it is actually really good quality bands who play there as well, and I think that...
And us.
Pardon?
Good quality bands and us.
I don't know. I think your band's all right. No, I don't. I actually really like your band.
Crosscutsaw.co.
Yes, Crosscutsaw. First Saturday of the month at the Duck and Drake. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
But then you've got Pete Oliver on a Monday night, who is...
Hi, Uncle Pete.
Hello, Pete. Thanks for everything. He nurtures all the talent, because when I started songwriting at his... performing my songs for the first time at the Blues Bar, Pete Oliver, at the end of each gig, would say something to me, which was exactly the right thing to say, because it meant that I whizzed off back to Leeds from Harrogate, feeling on top of the world after probably doing a mediocre gig with mediocre songs, and was ready to work harder.
Yeah.
And he kept on doing it, and he kept on doing it, and he kept on doing it.
But just sort of pick on something that wasn't quite right, but like
It takes 3
telling you
seconds.
in an encouraging way.
Well, yeah, that's a beautiful thing. But he you know, it's all about accentuating the positive, which is something that I believe when I'm as a teacher, I always want to try and accentuate positives. But he would always there's always somewhere something you can pick on. Oh, I love that bit. Try working harder at that, and you'd like, oh right, brilliant, I'll do that. But he's doing that to, apart from having all the bands as an example, you know, Pete's Jam Night is he's doing that to everybody. I mean, and he'll get up there and say, "Do you need a bass player? Do you need a drummer? Right, let's give you an opportunity to try this out." You know, you're here, and the crowd there is wonderful. I mean, most times the blues bar crowd is really good, but I've noticed, especially at the open mics, they will give anybody a fair go. And even if they're not liking the first song, you get a massive warm round of applause and another chance to do another one.
Yeah.
You know, after 3 or 4, maybe it might to dwindle, but you always get that reaction. So it's not just the people performing.
The enthusiasm for just having a go rather than the enthusiasm for it being brilliant.
Yeah, but there's a platform for the audience is part of it. You know, to give those people that feeling.
And it's understood what their role is in on that night.
Yeah, and no matter how many different people are there, it's the same crowd, even though it's different people. You know, he's created that sort of atmosphere. So that's sort of that's the Monday night thing, which starts generating the new people, like you're saying. You know, it's sort of the way it works.
Yeah,
Harrogate itself. There's a few other bars around Harrogate as well, which do well, but it's the blues bar that's the crux. And I think it was created because there was that need originally to.
And that must be the same of Gloucester.
I don't know why it started, because the first gig I went to was a band. I mean, I did mention EMF in there, and the guitarist from that, Ian Dench, was playing in a band called Apple Mosaic, and they were the godfathers of the time when I stepped into the music scene. And the first gig I saw them was on something called the Barge Semmington. So you were all basically going to a gig on a barge. I mean, you didn't need to really have much sort of incentive to go, because it's like, I'm going to go to a gig on a barge. All right, good. And then the first gig I saw was Ian Dench, and the second gig was his band. And then of course by the time the early 90s had happened, he'd gone stratospheric and was in £1 million. So was going to touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh right, listen. This is an interesting one. Next, the next thing you've written is Princess Diana died, and subsequently 2 of my favourite pieces of music were denied release.
Gutted. That time, I was very frustrated about Diana's death. I mean, actually, I was helping a guy called Mark, hello Mark, move house that weekend, and the next day we were going to do the move. The next day on Sunday we were going to watch the Newcastle-Liverpool match, which, in the 90s that was a big deal. Liverpool-Newcastle. We usually lost. I'm a Newcastle fan. We usually lost, but it was always a good match, something to look forward to. And then of course it was all cancelled that day, and I was like, well, that's annoying, because I wanted to watch that. I don't see why I have to stop watching. And then of course everything starts unfolding, and it says released on there, but it's not released. One was stopped release, and the other one was denied a chance to play at the proms.
Right.
And if I tell you the names of these tracks, you'll understand why they were denied this sort of promotion. And one is Short Ride in a Fast Machine by John Adams, which was written in 1984, 95, something like that, I think. But that is an incredible orchestral work, which I mean, this was 97. In 96, I had my first lecture at college with a guy called Barry Russell, and he'd already charmed me to get me into the college. I mean, I went to all sorts of different places, but when I went to
Bretton Hall.
It was Bretton Hall, yeah. So when I went to Bretton Hall, I met him, and it was just like, right, I didn't want to go to university. I'd put it off for about 8 years. I did not want to go. I wasn't ready for it. But this guy said, the way he acted and the way he approached music was something that I could really get into. And I thought, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it here. And so it was the first piece that he played to us in a lecture, and we're just all like 30 of us going, what is that? I mean, do you want to play that now, actually? Yeah. It's an orchestral piece, which I've tried to play once and didn't do it very well, but it just starts off with a woodblock doing that, and then everything else just goes. It all kicks off.
imagine that being a reasonable intro to a welcome on any kind of music course.
Well, it set the standard for what I had to do, and the next 3 years, I studied all sorts of music there, but not just music from people who had been established, but our tutors, and of course then my peers, some of which when I was in the first year, you're watching the third years, there was a really nice group of people in the third year when I was in the first year you could see the path that they'd gone through. You could sort of get an idea of like, right, okay, so it's going to be like that, is it? Right,
they
okay,
used to be like me, and I'm going to be there as if I put the work in.
Well, that's what you sort of hope. But you had confidence in going to watch them. You enjoyed watching what they were trying to do. I mean, they didn't perform very often. It was quite a small group of people, I think, at the end, but it wasn't as big. The course wasn't as big, or people had dropped out or something as we had. But yeah, there was definitely people to look up to, and that sort of, well, if that's all right, then I can do anything I want. Surely I can. As long as you can back a read for it.
And the second.
Well, right.
Piece?
The second piece is I was properly got. This was actually denied release. This a friend of mine called Lawrence Ash, who I've done lots of music with, and in the past, and sort of I think when we sort of met, the times were sort of crossing at that point because I was still playing with him in sort of 97, 98, and then of course when I left school I joined the Paul Middleton band almost immediately. It seemed like I handed him a notice and it's like, right, you coming to play at this festival? Yeah, right, I'll do that. But the second track, it was the first band that had been signed to Beggars Banquet for 10 years. Were about to release their debut single. The drummer, Lawrence, had carved out a deal where he wasn't a drummer, he was an active, creative, equal share of the writing in his contract. And they were about to release a single in 1997, and it was called... The band's called Dream City Film Club, and the title of the track was If I Die, I Die. So you can see, I mean, admittedly, in that song...
Surely they could have just kept the title but put, if you'll excuse the pun, and it'd have been all right.
Do you know what, mate? Well, yeah, I still don't think that would quite work. But it's Short Hand and Fast Machine, it's just the title. You could change that to whatever you like. You could change it to Project 96-A, but that one when it's all over.
Yeah.
They're a beautiful, beautiful band, and subsequently with their projects I met them and played with them in different times. So.
As I watch you sleeping, gently feel my way. Into your dreams, love. Gently feel my way. You are so beautiful. Died to taste your kiss. I would give my all, dear.
Nice. I'm not sure whether...
It's good beer pouring music.
Yes.
It's good beer pouring music.
Can we get to the chorus of that?
Oh, we can do.
Here it comes.
That's probably why I want to release it on the radio. But I want to talk about this chorus at
They
the
can
time.
break me in two. Lover, I don't care. As long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid. No, take my chances, and if I die, I die.
Wow, well there's absolutely every reason for that not to be released after Princess Diana's death.
But that's the initial. So I had Newcastle or Liverpool were cancelled. This song was released cancelled. The Proms then didn't play that piece of music, and I
And then fucking Candle in the Wind.
oh well.
Sorry.
Well, no.
Do you mind?
Candle in the Wind was at a gig, played at a gig. A gig, could you call it a gig? Where there was an incredible speaker at that gig, and it was Diana's brother. and I thought that speech rang true with me, and I just thought, right, okay, it wasn't like you suddenly going, right, I tell you what, I'm just going to believe loads of conspiracy theories, but I was just like, hang on a minute, why is he saying that? He needs to make a point. It's the only time he's going to make a point. All right, I need to know a little bit more about where that attitude is coming from, because, you know, I mean, and I think if I die, I die. I think when I've been preparing for this and listening to the tune, I actually thought, and I have got a real, I feel really upset still now about it. You know, that was my initial, but now, I mean, it's like nearly 20 years, and I'm still not satisfied with what happened, or the situation, or the stories, or the way these things are
You mean the song's not been released, or the way that there was a
important clarification.
A sacrifice
I'm still gutted. But you know, but the fact is that it remains that, you know, this woman did. You know, she booked the trend of all these things, and you know, if I die, I die. You could sort of say, well, she knew she was, you know, for the things that I've seen in, you know, sort of that you know, she knew she was going to die, and it's just like, well, I tell you what, okay, I've got X amount of time left on the planet. I'm just going to keep on making it very, very, very difficult for these people, and you know, I don't really know all of what it's about. I never met the woman, you know, and I don't know all the stories, and of course, you know, if you believe in some things in the media, you're going to believe other things, but I think there's, I still find it very, very hard to stomach the way that, you know, that sort of happened. I mean, you know, you think about all the amazing things you hear about, you know, those Tudor kings and stuff like that, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, it's happening right now. Yeah. There's a very strong, it's just like, and I don't like it, and I think that, you know, I've watched a few.
It's just
one
of many, isn't it?
Well, it is one of many, but I think an incredible one to gloss over. Because it was the one I watched. It was a Keith Allen film, and when you look at the credits coming up, you go, oh, right, I'm watching this, because of the names that were cropping. It was like, all right, I think is it Victor Lewis Smith and stuff like that was on there. Who's always been behind sort of things, especially in the BBC, and some things that are interesting to watch. And yeah, so I watched that, and you just there going, well, yeah, there's far too many things that haven't been that haven't been answered, and you know, I would like them to be. I think I really would.
I saw a picture very recently with two gentlemen in it. One on the left was James Hewitt, and the one on the right was Prince Harry. And without a shadow of a doubt, it's James Hewitt's kid. So you know, if that's the first misdemeanor, then the ball may well have been rolling from that kind of era.
Yes, yeah. Well, you know, I can see that they weren't happy. You know, yeah, I can understand why they were upset, but I don't think that's it's reasonable to carry out what they, you know. Well, I'm not saying that the royal family are to blame. I'm saying that there are very, very poor excuses coming out in the media and reasons that have, you know, trying to be led to believe. And I'm thinking, well,
I am saying
I'm not buying
family are to blame. That's what I'm saying.
Don't get it, man.
Anyway,
I wasn't there.
No, never would I. But
it wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
I was driving home from a gig with an Irish band.
That night?
From somewhere, from Lakes, I think, somewhere, yeah.
I see, I don't remember where I was when I heard about Diana, particularly.
Sunday morning.
Wasn't that bothered.
Didn't believe
it. Well, you know.
You're probably
when the revolution comes,
there.
then she would have been the first with her back to her wall anyway, wouldn't she? Just because of association, so.
Most likely. All right, so anyway, we'll move on. Vibra. Tell me about the right. So you're principally a vibraphone and a keyboard player, a piano player.
Yes, since I went to college and I just saw a marimba. Said, "What's that?"
Marimba, yeah.
It's a marimba. Can I play it? Yes. That was it. Yeah. And so I started the marimba, moved on to vibraphone, and that was it.
So you'd never really played vibraphone or marimba until you started at Brighton College.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, you got 3 years and. You know, I practiced for about 3 hours a day.
And you were a musician already?
I was a musician
already. It's an interesting thing to point out that if you are a good musician on one instrument and you understand how music works, that it's only a matter of physicality learning a
There's
different
learning
instrument.
music,
Yeah.
and then there's learning instruments.
Yeah.
And so
Yes, yeah,
you
yeah, I
know,
agree with that.
you learn how music works,
Yeah.
and you put that together, and that once you know how music works, it's far easier to learn how to play a new instrument because
Yeah.
you don't have to learn both together.
But you also need certain things which there's an idiomatic nature
Yeah.
to it, like holding mallets in my hand. I understand how to do that. You don't see me doing a lot of depths on saxophone.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you still have to.
I cannot hold a tune on a saxophone.
Well,
still have
that's
to
physical technique
You
of
still
getting
have
around
to
an
develop
instrument.
an aptitude to
Learning how to play.
But there's certain things that feel really natural. You think, oh no, I can do this. But then it's all down to practice, isn't it? I mean,
Well, it's like us picking up a mandolin or something.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can
no, you-
find
yeah.
a chord and
You
strum it and
you
do
play a
couple
chord and you go,
a couple of riffs and
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
that doesn't sound
Pretty
right. Why
straightforward.
don't that sound right? Because it's tuned in a different way.
backwards, yeah.
All right, so play that instead, and it's
Yeah.
and I suppose that's a similar thing to you moving on to marimba and vibraphone.
And I think the time as well, because we had those instruments at college. I mean, there's an ensemble there and a percussionist who became my teacher called Damien Harron, who would offering us incredible things to watch them do. I mean, you on a Friday night, this Cornelius Cardew ensemble used to do 3 gigs in a row. So they used to come in residence and play our tunes and play their own, and they do this gig, and then you just watch oh my god, what's he do? Why is he? All right, it's not using money. He's got a violin bow and he's pulling it. Oh wow, that sounds amazing! And then you're just and you're going home with bags full of ideas. So I mean, I wasn't playing that. When I was practicing, I was getting there and playing the scales and getting to know my way around the instrument. But you were just having these times where you were just being just shown the way. Oh, anyway, you just say, where do you want to go? Just go on with it, and believe in yourself.
I was fortunate being a violinist, and then at the time I watched The Song Remains the Same, the Led Zeppelin thing, and I learned that whole violin bow down the front of your guitar thing.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, any instrument that you play, add a violin bow and see whether it makes any difference.
How
is my
shit
advice.
on harmonica is my response.
You haven't tried
Blinding one eye with a rosin.
Oh yeah, well at least I know it's shit on harmonica rather than just assuming that.
So, Kozel is the second beer. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit sweeter than the
smoother.
Gambrinus. I prefer the Gambrinus, I think. I do like the dry beer.
Hoppiness, yeah.
Yeah.
Gambrinus is a favourite.
I'm only getting the sweetness after you've said that. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah. I wouldn't have picked that out though.
A little bit rounder, I would say.
Yeah.
No. Okay, anyway, moving on. Well, Matthew Evans, tell me about Intake High School. That's college.
When you look
We
back-
just so happen to have.
Oh, bring her on. Where are you? No, I'll tell. Oh. No, don't.
Who's talking of intake?
Jackie,
all right.
Jackie Rose.
Oh, we're mentioning names, are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish she could just walk in now and we could interview her. Just so
Get her on.
I could say something rude to her and she'd go, "That's so inappropriate, Darren."
Let me get her through the door. She might probably walk out pretty quick.
Don't ever trust anybody that seriously uses the word inappropriate. There's my top tip for this evening.
Inappropriate is the most awkward word to write and to type. And I learnt that when my first year of training at teaching and having to explain students' behaviour and writing instant reports. So I try not to use it, but I have used it a lot, so don't trust me.
Yeah, just get your thesaurus out. Anyway, so Intake High School.
Intake High School.
And
I got
the
a job.
shenanigans therein.
Oh, right. Now, well, I'll just do a bit of the precursor to joining you at Intake High School. Was I was working in a school in Doncaster and I got made redundant in an academy takeover. And you're not supposed to be made redundant in an academy takeover. They say there aren't redundancies.
Yeah.
They made 3 people redundant. I was one. And I was taken into this office by the new guy, and I was at the end of the holidays. I was in the middle of a rehearsal for Bugsy Malone.
How long have you been teaching at this point?
It is my NQT year.
Oh, right,
So I
okay.
trained NQT year, and I was in the middle of putting on with the 2 drama teachers the first musical performance this school had had in 5 years. Staying on late, everybody else gone home half day at home, and I got dragged into this room and was told that I was going to be made redundant. So then went back into the rehearsal and carried on working. And what do you do? With 2 weeks to stew in the holidays, and then basically I just showed her the middle finger because I it was a school famous for musicals, and I brought it back with the drama teachers, and then I got a job. You know, but basically, it sounds good on paper. I got jobs as head of music in a performing arts school, in a high school for the performing arts.
Yeah.
Little did I realise that words and actual situations are very different.
Yeah.
But I met two key people in my life, and on day one it was you, and in the last year it was Philip Stokes, which it was a very, very weird place to work, Intake High School, and I had a job description which I could not fulfil, and as a music teacher you usually have another person and possibly a tech guy, and then maybe someone coming in from geography to do 2 lessons a week. And I had like about 12 staff to manage. And the year before I'd been in NQT, you know, it was just like, okay, right, now you've got to do the job, Matt. You've got the job, you've got the money, you've got the suit, you've got the tie, get some work done.
And we had, I mean, it became apparent once we'd kind of, once you've kind of settled in. I mean, it was never apparent that you were struggling by what I saw you deliver, but it became apparent that you were struggling when you'd say, "Have you got a second? What the fuck's going on? I can't fucking
Can we just clear up this situation, please, Darren? Because I'm not really sure what's going on. And there were plenty of those situations.
Yeah.
And I inherited a staff who were actually, I mean, I had these 4 peripatetic teachers who went all around the community, did all sorts of stuff I didn't know about. I didn't have time to monitor. And they were actually monitored by someone else at the time. But
Me.
But they historically had done amazing work around the community, and you know, Darren in particular had this blue Sherpa van, and when that came into Bramley, into LS13, you could almost imagine the ice cream band music doing it. You know, just like it's just like kids flocking. Oh, it's the music man! It's the music man! It's the music man! This wonderful presence, and obviously the kids have grown up with you. You know, through the junior schools and so I had an amazing set of staff, but it was impossible to do anything with them because it was right at the time when everything was getting cut. So I was there going, I can't use, but 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't use these guys, but they're all brilliant and really helping. And okay, no, I was told to stay out of it, and it was
with the first year already. I think the first year was probably the last year that we had, you know, with good hours, with you know plenty of
and then people started,
and then it started to drop off.
People started having to either leaving or arranging sort of deals and stuff like that. But you know, it's just like you're watching. It was a hard enough job to do. I had a GCSE set one year with it's Jordan Hall's year, right? With at one end I had 25 kids, no support for the most part. He came in and helped out with some of the Cubase and stuff like that, but most of the time it was just me, 25 kids, and I had musical geniuses and drug dealers in the same And you know what? It's them, and when you have to read all the data and stuff like that, and you're being like primed by your bosses, and you know, and bless Jackie Rose, you know what I mean? She did the best, but you know, it was like, what about these kids here? What about these kids here? What we've got to get these grades up. We've got to get these grades up. I said, do you know what? If you look at the kids who were suffering at the top, they, you know, I'm not going to get your A stars here, because I haven't got time to do it. I'm too busy having to deal with people who are falling asleep on my lesson, they're stoned, coming in shouting at me. I had one girl come in one day. Actually, she'd gone away for a bit, but she hadn't finished the course. She came back into school. She'd been off for 3 months, and it was just like, thank God. She came back in, and she got a guitar, and she stood in front of me with the guitar, going, what did she call me? She's like going, you're a twat, 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 wanker, wanker, twat, twat. You know, for about 3 minutes, I'm standing there going like, all right, it's your point of view, do you know what I mean? But I've got kids in practice rooms that I really need to see, do you know what I mean? But I've got to front this one out. She's clearly in a real state, and she's got problems. And I've seen her since, you know what? And it's really funny. No worries. No worries, seen it, and it was just like, yeah, so about that, it's all right, don't worry about it.
It is interesting.
At school, it was
interesting. It's probably worth pointing out that Intake had a massive reputation at that time, and so there were kids, you know, travelling 30 miles a day on trains to get there, specifically for the performing arts courses. But it was also half of the intake, if you'll excuse the pun, of the school was the catchment area, And so it was sort of two of the roughest estates in West Leeds.
Mind you, you can think of that as a victory because at least she stood there strumming her guitar while she was calling you a twat.
Oh yeah, I know you've always accentuated the positives. It's like, you know, the strumming work is good. You know, we need to work on the left hand a bit. Let me teach you some chords, just one thing. E-7, try that. Go to A7. We might have something there. You know,
maybe you need to accentuate the less in the twat.
Yeah, I don't know if it was twat, but it was just like they're going like, oh wow, I think this might be a surreal moment, Matt. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, right. You know, but I mean, you had good times and bad times at that school, but I mean, it was very hard work. And you know, the first thing I do when I wake up when I'm teaching is go like, do I have to go into work today? Even now, because it's just like, do I have to? Yeah, you do. Right, get up and go. And there it was just like, you know, oh mate, no, I don't want to go in. I don't want to face this. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
And it would, you know, it was very draining.
Towards the end of mine, it would hard work as well.
Yeah. And you know, and if you've got the incentive, because you know, because I was there for 4 years, you know.
Interestingly, it's about the same time as I met Darren.
Right.
Isn't it? You were teaching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we went through
and there was
the
Gideon,
Memphis thing.
Gideon,
yeah, Gideon Ben were there as well, so I was getting all this and I
that.
was going like, oh, wow.
And so from my perspective, I was just seeing him getting more and more pissed off with his job and more fed up with that.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it's a standard pro forma. You've got your first sort of year is you shitting your pants. Year 2 to year 6 of your teaching career is like, let's fucking make a change. Come on, kids. Rawr! And then, you know, if you manage to last 10 years, then the last years up to that are just, well, I'm underpaid, I'm under pressure.
No, you're not underpaid. Well, it depends. Qualified teachers are not underpaid. Overworked, yes.
Did I say underpaid?
Yeah.
I didn't mean that. I meant overworked.
Yeah, overworked.
And everything, every positive thing that I do, that the primary schools in particular, because they were once removed, are going, this is the best thing that's ever happened. You get awards and then your manager strolls in and goes, oh look, I've got an award. And you're like, oh, well done. You know, and it's all yours. And, you know, just really...
That's before my time.
Not valued.
Yeah, you did go.
I didn't do that.
No, but we, as you know, just to add to the confusion, we had 2 managers. 2 line managers.
Helps, yeah.
Don't worry about it, Matt. Anyway, I am worried about it.
He was the line manager that got the awards. You were the ones that had to fucking do it. Anyway, that aside.
Don't get me started on it.
Oh, and you know, the confusion only interspersed with John Wells. John Awesome Wells. You're right, John. And I'd walk in the room.
What a guy.
You had to walk through his room to get to the third room. And you'd walk in and he'd be halfway through a sentence in front of a class of 30 kids. He'd dive behind his piano and play the opening riff off the my band, The Horses, sort of signature tune. You're right, Dad. You're right. Had a good weekend. Fucking 30 fucking kids sat there. Right, know what I mean? Right? Had a good weekend off.
I never witnessed any of this. I would just like to state that.
That would have been inappropriate.
I would have. It would, rightly so.
Lunatic, but lovable lunatic.
Yeah, and an incredible musician.
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
I describe him as a tap. You just turn him on, and then when you finish, turn him off. You'll just happily play away. Very, very well. Good. I've not really heard him on guitar as much, but he's a very good keyboard player.
Yeah. Well, again, it's that thing. Good musician, and you know.
Yeah, very good. I wish he had an outlet to play out more, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
he has got 4 kids.
And it seems like they're every time you see them on Facebook, they're like just a big happy family, which is a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Okay then.
So tell us about Moles and Skylarks.
Oh yeah, right. Well, this is when I had a massive connection with the Gloucester music scene after I left through Lawrence Ash, and in holidays I was going to see him, and I mean he set up a studio a recording company called 11A Records.
So he was the guy from
Dream City Film Club.
Yes.
And he was
in Gloucester.
Yeah, he'd been to London to do the Dream City Film Club, and then he'd come back, and we were sort of contemporaries in the 80s, but he went off to Manchester when and joined a band there in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, because he knew what he needed to do. And what he did was Gloucester basically died after EMF. there was nothing left, and it was and I was going back to see Lawrence and sort of holidays and see him, and it was just the place was dead, and he felt very passionate about doing something, so he created a band. It was originally called The Social, but then it turned into Moles and Skylarks, and the point was to get Gloucester to understand what it was about again. So what he did is there were the guitarist was from my old band, Mr. Ben, and then there was an 18-year-old bass player who turned up on the scene who really, 18 years old, really understood what a role a bass player was.
It's a peculiar thing when young people just really switch on to what it's about. Whether they can play or not, but you know.
Yeah. And you're just there going, like, I was never that aware when I was 18. It's just like, that's ridiculous. You know, I was in bands and everything, but I wasn't. It's proactive.
Yeah, it's best not to look back on yourself under those circumstances.
And then there was a Rastafarian in there called Rupert, and Rupert had. He had storage space at 11A Records, and he had this room, and it was just full of really authentic African shakers and the marimba little things with the gourds underneath. Yeah. Which are always beautifully out of tune to a Western ear. Yeah. So we had lots and lots of different, and we had a couple of front men, and
so yeah. Go on.
Well, yeah. So, but the point was, it was that band was actually created to bring Gloucester back into town. Right. We are going to be a brilliant band, and we are going to entertain you. And Lawrence had played with an African master musician, so he understood that when you start drumming, you finish when the audience has decided that that's when they want to finish. So he understood about show, and it was very, very successful. You know, we did get people out. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with this is where I wanted to use the term shithole. When you're dealing with people who say, well, yeah, it's a shithole, but it's my shithole, it's very hard to get them out on Friday, Saturday night. You know, and so ultimately it was unsuccessful.
So is the perception of that people have.
Sorry about that.
The inhabitants of Gloucester. Yeah. At that time, anyway. Did they generally think this is a shithole?
Well, it's a quote from a couple of people, but what you saw was people who were involved in the music scene moving out to the outskirts. So it's just a horrible brown house sort of outskirts suburbia in Gloucester now, and you couldn't get back in again. So it's like people who had lost it would say that, and that was their excuse for it. And so, well, I haven't lost it. I still want to do. I was going down from Leeds to go down and rehearse and record and and perform. And it was the reason I chose. I mean, to pick on Moles and Skylarks is because it's I was doing that when I was under all the pressures at intake. You know, I'd forgotten that. I thought I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything regularly. I didn't have my own band, but I was actually every holiday going down and trying, because I knew the band were good, and it was an opportunity to play my vibraphone in there. You know, it always helps. And so I would go back and do it. And this. I don't know if you want to put the song on In the Heat of the Summer. I'm all right. Thank you very much. You're very kind.
In the heat we got
In the Heat of the Summer. Yeah,
yes,
it's the best of a bunch of recordings, I think. But it was in 2007. Gloucester flooded, and it was sort of quite funny that this track was sort of going about, because it sort of reminds you. They've got that feeling about it being really, really sort of warm and sort of sticky, and of course there was loads of water around.
It was all underwater.
But everybody's had got to go through that, and their summer was wiped out, and a lot of people's homes were destroyed, and and it wasn't a good thing to happen in Gloucester. It's it just made things worse for everybody.
section
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. That's a startling guitar line, that. That's Tim Harvey on guitar. I mean, I played with him since I was like 17, on and off, and to come back and see him with his new kit, I mean, he'd been on eBay. Oh boy, he'd been. His amps didn't even look like amps. It was just like a tray with like some valves on it, and he put that there, and then he gets me going. Okay, right, yeah. Excellent. And he sounded beautiful.
Now, tell me about Philip Stokes, because you've taken me to 3, 4 or 5 of Philip Stokes' screenplays.
I have. Thank you for coming, because not everybody does. I strongly recommend you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, I mean, speaking personally, it's one of those where somebody says, do you want to come and see a piece of theatre? And you go, well, if you could transport...
of ice cream.
If you could transport me there now...
Is that your persuasion?
And, you know, I could be instantly moved. Yeah, but not really. And I don't know what made me go to the first one, but immediately. And that's exactly what happened.
Is it Laundry Boy?
Laundry Boy was the first one.
No.
And, you know, there's at least 4 I've been to.
Yeah.
And guaranteed, without fail, I have laughed out loud and cried.
Yep.
And was kind of... having seen some, left with a lot to go away and think about, depending on what the subject matter was and the screenplay in particular. And so, whereas I wouldn't choose to go and see somebody's screenplay, but you know, I mean, like anything else, one thing I've learned a lot from you, mate, but the one that's relevant to this part of the conversation
We haven't got long.
is that if you recommend something to me, there is very good reason. It's not, you know, you'll actually say you need to come and see this, or you need to hear this.
Because I want to talk to someone about it afterwards who hasn't written it or been in it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you know, I think that should be the basis of any recommendation. I mean, like, I know if I don't want to waste anybody's time. It's like, right, no, that is mint. You're going to love it, and you say you will laugh, and you will cry. You also feel euphoric, and you also feel helpless.
Yeah,
it's just like he's got the whole theatre thing going on. It's not about. I mean, for example, Laundry Boy. I can sell Laundry Boy to anybody because what it is, it's about a guy who works in a laundrette. And in the first 5 minutes, you will see him on his own, because he's not a very successful laundrette, getting off with a Dyson Hoover. Yeah. And being so physical with that Hoover that the audience just completely gasped, because the sexual moves that were going on in that particular moment. Can we name check the actor? Because Lee Bainbridge, yes, Lee Bainbridge. I'll keep on keeping on, my friend.
Bainbridge, fucking hell, mate. Yeah. I mean, really. He reflects what the players have to offer, and it can do the full range.
It could be proper menacing, like he were a killer in what's the one? Not Beast and Rifles. The one he came to see, Raising Eddie.
Yes.
He was that. He was a.
He plays an unhinged nutter really well.
It plays a person with special needs in Beast and Rifles.
That's right.
And he played Laundry Boy. He was Laundry Boy.
Just the comedy stuff. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is with Phil's shows is that time he was working with Hayley Shalito, so you had Lee Bainbridge on stage, and then you had Hayley Shalito, who's this, you know, stunning, and she was the human version of the Hoover in that one, going around in the roller shoes sort of things, and she's like got long blonde hair and she's got like real crystal gorgeous looks. And you know, you obviously there you can look at what you want, but you do. Actually, I'll just look at Lee for a bit, you know what I mean? Because he's going to be really, really funny or expressive or something like that. And now he's working with the 412 Dance Company. He's now with Ella Daly, who's also very good looking and very, very good dancer. But Lee will draw you away. You know, I mean, there's a bit in one play that I don't think you've seen where, you know, his pants come down. And you can see the sweat in a crack. And I had to ask him one day, do you deliberately put that there? Because you just don't know, because it's when he pulls down his pants at that moment, he's dancing around to Lavender. No, it's not, what's it called? That Lavender's Blue by Marillion. Marillion, you know that one? Just like a really sort of cheesy sort of song. And then his trousers come down and you just see his grey pants with this massive line of sweat down his crack, and you're like, well, I don't know if that's part of the play or that's just like, but I actually don't know because it just got such a massive reaction. You know, you sort of, well, let's keep that in. You know, it's that funny. Yeah.
So anything you see by Philip Stokes, highly recommended.
Well, can we say that 412 are taking 19 Days to Edinburgh this year? They'll be on at the Underbelly.
Edinburgh again.
Yeah. It's Underbelly. 2-man show. Well, one man, one woman.
Yes, absolutely.
And a DJ, 1 hour, done.
Have you ever been Edinburgh?
Oh, I've been to Edinburgh many times. And
For the first time, yeah.
And now I just go and see what I want to see, and then maybe the odd thing or two. But it's an incredible place. I mean, I used to go with a guy called Mark, who I mentioned earlier, from Moving House, and Diana died, and you could go to like 5, 6, 7 shows a day. You know, we just take money, and it's just like, right, pint show.
Average audience is like something like 2, isn't it?
But yeah, well, that's right. I have been to a show like that when I have been the audience. But you know, but that's a part of you going, right, okay, let's watch this comedian work for an hour. You know, they're gonna have to work a lot harder.
And I love that situation as a musician as well. To be, you know, you got 3 people in a room, and they're actually sat there waiting to be entertained.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult enough when you get 100 people in a room that aren't really there for you. Or even for any music.
Yeah. It's much easier if there's only 3 people but they're into it than 100 people who aren't bothered.
Absolutely.
Well,
it is.
I don't know if it is easier. I think it's different. But I think
it's easier because because like if you know you can play, you go, I know I can entertain.
Yeah.
Those people want to be entertained. Yeah. I'd take 3 people who want to be entertained over any number of people that I have to fight to get the notice.
Mind you, when you do get through to those people, it's something special, isn't it? So I suppose it's a...
I suppose they've all got their own qualities. But
maybe I'm coming from a different angle, but I would say that it's easier to play to 100 people who aren't listening because you haven't got anything to win. Whereas you're playing to 3 people, you might, they've got a judgment.
Within those 100 people, there's always at least 3 people who do want to be entertained or interested. So, it's...
I mean, and I'm all for. I mean, I must say one thing I would never ever do is have a go at a small audience because I've seen it done, and it's like, right, they're not here.
Yeah,
you're having a go at the people who actually are waiting for us to actually. So it's like, so I'm definitely with that. I mean, I've got anybody who goes out and supports live music. Gets my vote because I learned as a kid that you when you're going out, if you're going to a gig, right, that's independent thinking skills going on there. You've chosen to go and watch something that may not necessarily satisfy you, but you are still there, and the conversation you're talking about a state of mind. If you're going to go out to watch live music, you're a certain type of person, and usually you're quite an easygoing sort of person, someone who's open-minded, ready for anything, and usually quite interesting to chat to. You know, and I like that in people. That's about gigs. Yeah. That's why I've liked being around them. You know, there are opportunities for things to happen.
Well, we've got 2 other musicians in the room. Radagast, by the way.
Yes.
Not sure, a little bit too dry perhaps for my taste. I mean, they're all nice. I'm within the comparison.
It's got a sharpness to it, isn't it?
I drink all of them. They're all right.
Gambrinus is my recommendation out of those 3. Now, while I've got you here, we've all played at the Blues Bar. Imagine you're on stage where I'm stood, which is stage left with the barrier with the rails in front of you.
I've got a mixer.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, right? I almost asked 2 suited gentlemen to move on Wednesday. And it's a thing that's recurring, is that people will just get in that corner and all get the phones out. And it's really fucking distracting because I'm looking down, got my pedals down here, and I'm playing. I don't tend to I'm not a big sort of stare everybody in the eyes. I'm not looking at my feet, but my head's down, and it's there, and the bright mobiles are all moving about under you, in your vision. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the professional solution is to focus on them all of your playing and all of your musicality and make them put their phones away by just the fact they're so blown away by the fact that you're playing.
Well, I'm doing my fucking best, man.
I mean, there's a lot going on that stage. If you're browsing at a gig like that, and this is last night.
Yeah, but it happens
Night,
particularly in that corner though.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, we're out of way.
Yeah, right, I'm here now. Nobody's having this seat. It's clearly mine. I'm sorted for the night. They had a bottle of wine, didn't they?
Oh, bless them. Yeah, it were reasonable though.
I don't notice things like that.
Well, I don't normally. You know, it could be any other gig anywhere else. Don't bother me.
Sometimes things bug you though, don't they?
Trying to think
It's really
like
difficult.
that. Something puts you off.
I've not. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like it's distracting. I'm trying to just sort of forget about it, and off I go.
The worst one is people standing with their back to your microphone stand too close to it.
Yeah.
That's what I can't stand.
Yeah.
All right, you gotta put my teeth out.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, well, I'll just suck it in and
But
live with it for
I'll
now.
probably think of something later on and go, oh yeah, no, that were really annoying that time, but I can't think of anything I found.
We resigned from all my posts at school.
Yes, I
Why did you do that? Tell me about that.
I said, here's your 40 grand, here's your stress, and here's your bullshit. I'm fucking off, because I refuse to lie to kids. I have had it up to, at that point I were up to here with it, and it were everywhere. You've got to say this, you've got to say this, you've got to say this, and I'm like, no, I don't have to say that at all. I don't know why you're saying that. It's not helping the situation. And also, when you're lying to kids and their parents, they know you're lying. So I'm not going to do it. Sorry, I'm not doing that. And that's why at the school that we worked at, I was asked to do that, and that was one of the main reasons I got. And do you know what? I've not got back into a salary yet. I've tried to get back into a salary job, and I've got to make sure when I get it, it's the right one, because I'm going to be slapped. You know, like them reams of paper you get when they photocopy it. It's like they're going to be like, right, there you go, Matt. Fill in all that. Deal with that. It's all A4 paperwork. And as a supply teacher, I get away from that. And also, it's like, if you don't like what I do or what I say, you don't even have to confront me. Pick up the phone, speak to my agency and tell them to tell me not to go into work tomorrow. So I know that I can walk into any situation
like,
and just read it the way I like. If you don't like me, and nobody's ever done that, of course they haven't. You know, but and it makes it a lot easier knowing that you don't have to. You get a little bit more leeway with the way that things. You've got to follow rules and stuff like that. I mean, that's very important.
But
No, it's all right. Sorry.
But you don't have to justify every last thing that you say to kids.
Well, the thing is, if a kid comes up to you and says like,